Welcome to this week's Fireside Chat with Jesse. I am joined today by Robert Cohen, partner at Moritt Hock and Hamroff LLP. Thanks for joining me, Bob.
No problem, Jesse. Thanks for having me.
Nah, it's great to have you on here, and it's hard to call you Robert. I don't think I've ever called you that. Maybe in 2005 when I did write your name back, you're probably like, it's Bob.
Exactly.
Sorry.
I actually like when ELFA or NEFA make a mistake and put Robert there, and I take a Sharpie and I put a line through the Robert and write Bob underneath it, and I get more comments from that than most things I do. It's pretty funny.
That's fantastic. I used to do that when they started making me a CLFP, and I'm not one, so I would take a Sharpie through that too.
That's funny, and I'm sure they were all over you to make sure you got that afterwards, right? So,
Reed's like, why do you have that? I'm like, I don't know. Stop putting it on my name badge. So I guess we're gonna have to have a little bet here to see who gets more views. Now, granted, that was probably 3 years ago since I had Julia on here, but we can't track metrics over time, so we'll have to,
Well, just as well, but I'm betting on Julia. Oh, but go ahead.
Awesome. Well, Bob, for those people who haven't had the pleasure of meeting you, do you mind just kind of introducing yourself and your career to date?
My name is Robert S. Cohen. I'm with the firm of Moritt Hock and Hamroff. I've been in the equipment leasing industry for over 30 years, handling both front end and back end work for everyone in the industry, as well as regulation. I've been here my entire career, which is a little unusual, and we love what we do, and it's one of the nice things about working here.
Perfect. And have you only been like in equipment finance?
No. I am by trade. I'm a commercial litigator, and a large part of the beginning part of my career, I was doing actually many things: litigation, real estate, trust and estates, buys and sells. When the firm was 5 attorneys, we did what came in, and I think of it now as cross training. It's allowed me to be a much better lawyer, because now when my clients speak to me, I can highlight different issues that may not come to a traditional litigator or corporate attorney, and then get the people in my firm now that only specialize in that area to address whatever needs to be done. But it becomes very valuable to my clients. They like the approach.
So was Moritt Hock and Hamroff in the industry before you joined them, or how did you stumble? I guess I always ask the question is, how do people stumble across equipment finance?
So, certainly I think most of us would say, certainly on the lawyer side, most of us would say we didn't come out of law school saying, oh, I want to get into the equipment finance industry. Obviously not. But it actually worked for me. I was a finance major undergrad. So I totally knew all about it, liked it. It was actually a fallback position. I said to myself at the time, if I don't like being a lawyer, I need a degree that's going to work for me. That's why I stayed away from political science and history and some of the traditional pre-law type undergrads. And then when I got here, my partner, Mark Hamroff, and I were starting to do some work. The founder of the firm, Neil Moritt, had a client known as Equitable Life Leasing Company, which was the first leasing company matter I started working on. And then Mark started to develop the clientele, and I started to do a lot of that work. Then I started to develop the clientele, and from 5 attorneys, now we're close to 90, and operating out of Long Island, which is our home base, in Garden City, New York City, and 2 offices in Florida now, in the Fort Lauderdale area. And we're excited about it. It's a great growth area, and we handle clients nationwide.
Plus, you're Northeast. Come on, let's face it. Everyone wants to go to Florida at some point. It's a good backup plan. I get it. I get it. That's awesome. And then growing up, did you always want to be a lawyer?
I can remember the time I was watching some lawyer on TV, and I remember saying, "Oh, that looks pretty cool." And he was in a courtroom. So I went to my mother and I said, "Hey, I think I want to be a lawyer." And obviously, she jumped for joy. And from that point forward, it just seemed like It wasn't a hard sell for me. Of course, I didn't realize that being a lawyer is way different than that lawyer who's in before the judge. But there's still a lot of similarities even today. There's not as much trial work for most commercial litigators, a lot of motion works, but a lot of arguing. And as my wife says to me, we're all salesmen. She was, she had a great career in high-end computer sales software. And she said to me once, "You're a salesman." I said, "I'm not a salesman, I'm a lawyer." She goes, "No, no, you're a salesman." And when I thought about it, I said, "Lynn, you're right." I said, "I win cases or settle cases because I convince the other side that they've got a problem or that this is a good settlement. So I'm selling ideas, not products. I'm selling ideas and positions." So she was right. I owe a lot to my career to her. She's done a great job for me.
Awesome. That's awesome. And then also what I know about you too, if you ask enough questions, you'll get the right answers.
Exactly. Exactly. So yes, some of us are not shy when it comes to asking questions, and I would be one.
I'm just busted out.
It's all good. It's all good.
It's fantastic. And then I guess the intuition where it's like, hey, I don't know if I like this. You fall back to finance majors, great too. So
Yeah. Yeah, it was great. But I ended up, loving what I did and keeping it different and changing from different areas early on in my career. Nothing got boring. And it's worked out.
so the firm went from 5 when you got there to 90. What year were they founded?
They were founded a couple of years before I joined in 1980.
Nice.
I joined in 86. That's when I took the bar. And
Giants
yeah,
won the Super Bowl in '86, man. Come on, let's go.
good
Great
year.
year.
It's a good year. I got my Giants and my Mets all in 86.
Oh, that's right.
It's the glory years for sure.
And then the rest of life just
Well, yeah, that's right. And then it goes to my marriage and my kids being born, and that's about it.
I'm sorry. I'm a New York sports team. Well, some of the New York sports teams.
Yes, as I know.
That's awesome. So, from an equipment finance perspective, do you remember the first conference that you ever went to?
Yes, I do. It was a UAEL, excuse me. Um, it was the Western equivalent, UAEL, that's what it was,
Yeah.
which was the successor to WHALE, the Western Conference. Mark was active in the Eastern Association of Equipment Lessors, so I went to the Western Conference. And I remember doing a session there, which was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Andy Alper and I did the session on negotiating a broker agreement. And Andy said to me early on, he goes, "Listen, I like to do a little fun, couple of fun things when I'm out there. You could just roll with it." I said, "No problem, Andy. I'm good." I was a kid. I was just happy to be doing it with him. And he starts off and he says, "So Bob and I are going to be negotiating this broker agreement. And I, of course, will be representing the lender." And then he takes out this giant white cowboy hat and puts it on his head. And then he says, "And Bob will be representing the broker." And he gives me, okay, this black cowboy hat. And we just went at it for an hour. And we had a great time just making arguments back and forth. And
Why can't we do that now? That'd be so much fun.
you know what? We should. And I've done a lot of speaking, as you know, over the years. And we've used props many times. I mean, I did something on the Canned Spam Act, and we threw out cans of spam. I did a presentation on cannabis finance. Okay, before it was as common as it is now, and I brought munchies, and I did it in a tie-dye shirt, and it was a lot of fun. Still is a lot of
I wasn't sure where you were going with this.
fun. So it was all good. But yes, we should do more of those. We should do more of those.
And I forgot to ask in regards to the Moritt Hock and Hamroff. Is it just equipment finance, or you guys in other industries as well?
No, no. With 90 attorneys, we're handling virtually every commercial issue that could come up. We represent um, large corporations, obviously banks, independent lessors, high net worth individuals, nonprofits, um, some celebrities, and we handle a lot of sophisticated corporate work. We do M&A work, and we're a full service commercial firm. Obviously real estate and tax, construction. Um, so we have most of the bases covered.
And you're in Long Island. You said you had a couple offices in Florida, but you guys practice across the country.
Yes, most of our client base is quite frankly, most of my client base is not situated in New York. I'm representing, banks and lenders all over the country in this industry. And in my non-leasing world, I have many clients in the New York metro area as well.
Okay. And then I know you mentioned charities, and I think I tell people this all the time, but you guys were generous enough to do the articles of incorporation for Equipment Finance Cares. So thank you again. You set that up with Rachel, so I appreciate that, and we're forever indebted, Bob.
Oh, it doesn't have to be forever. We were happy to do it, and it was our pleasure. Our pleasure.
Perfect. So your first conference, UAEL. So obviously you're on a panel with Andy, so you have some prep going into it. You weren't kind of like me that just kind of walked into the EAEL and TNEC and was like, "What is going on here?" But besides Andy, do you remember the other, like the first person that was kind of like, "Hey, kid, do you want me to walk you around?" It's okay
Remember,
if you don't. It was just more of a
yeah,
curiosity question.
I remember meeting Denise Castagna. I don't know.
Yeah.
And, there was a local event in New Jersey, and I went there not knowing her. And it was nice to meet somebody who worked close by. Um, and then, plenty of people early on were there. Jim Merrilees and obviously, good people in the industry that I became very close with. I'm going to leave some people out. Forgive me for that, but Chris Enbaum and Dave Normandin and people all over the industry for sure. Doug Houlihan is a big fan. And that whole group, Shervin, so a lot of us that go back to that area, and obviously, Cami and Kim and
Yeah.
plenty of people. A lot of good relationships. A lot of
Sure.
good relationships.
And I think that's one of the things one of the points I try to talk about on this program is equipment finance, and it's not just a career, right? I mean, it's afforded us the lifestyle that we have, but it's
Yeah.
the long-term relationships that you have within the industry are almost as strong as relationships I have outside the industry. They're probably stronger, quite frankly.
You know what? It's very unique to have those kind of relationships in an industry, and it's one of the reasons I like working in the industry as much as I do.
So then when they bring on somebody else and says, "Bob, okay, we're going to put Julia in this industry with you," you sit there
Mhm.
and be like, "What are we doing? This is Bob."
Actually, that never entered into my world. Um, so when we hired Julia, okay, we were impressed with her. And when Mark and I decided, I think she's going to be a good fit for this industry, we've gone out of our way, okay, to train her and introduce her to everyone we can. Um, you know, a lot of people look at our industry, all the competitors, all the lenders that compete, but you never get that feeling in the industry. You always feel that there's enough there for everyone. And if I can't do it, maybe Jesse will do it or somebody else will do it. And it's it's basically sort of our philosophy. And I don't mean me as in my firm, but the philosophy of the organization. And that just spread to, working with Julia and all the people in the office here that most people don't know that work on
Sure.
these matters too. We have,
Sure.
15, 20 people that at one step in their career were doing work in this industry. So it gives us a lot of depth Um, and it's nice. It's very nice.
Plus, you guys are a good 1-2 combo. I don't think a lot of firms in this industry have that either. So,
Well, well, thank you. And obviously, Mark, it all comes from Mark. We come from, using a coaching phrase, the Mark tree, the Hamroff tree of the people who, were trained by Mark and, followed in his footsteps. I mean, he was a mentor to me, close friend and partner. And I owe a lot of my career to him. And with respect to Julia, we just have a great time working together. And we work hard and we laugh and it's nice going to conferences and we have each other's back all the time. So it's great, as does Mark, of course.
I'm going to touch on something you just mentioned before then, right? From the competitive nature of this industry, you'll be
Mhm.
sitting there at a table and, you'll have 5, I guess, independents that are probably doing the same exact thing, but everyone does it a little differently. And they're all friends, but they just lost to, not everyone can win every deal.
Right.
So you're sitting around a table and, me, I'm an instigator and I'll be like, so, you know, or like Elliot, right? When he was at Huntington, be like, so I know you didn't win that on service. You won that on rate, right? Someone else would come in and so it's like that camaraderie, right? Where you can sit there and, as you mentioned, it's enough to go around, right?
That's right.
And yeah,
And everybody laughs about it. In my tenure in the industry, I never ever heard somebody say, you know, that person, okay, did something inappropriate or violated the rule or, even the unwritten rules of how could they do that? Haven't seen that. So, which makes the conferences better because people are genuinely happy to see each other, even competitors.
well, I'm sure a lot of them just come to you and be like, Bob, we're all running into these same issues, right? So if they team up, it's better for
Mm,
the collective as opposed to the individual.
correct. And it's one of the things I tell, many of my clients have in-house counsel and we love that because what I say to them is, in-house counsel is great, okay, but they only know their shop. Where, I know dozens of shops. So as issues come up, I have in-house counsel calling me and say, hey, Bob, have you seen this? How are other people handling this in the industry? And obviously, we're not revealing names or, violating
Sure.
confidences, but we're certainly in a position to provide guidance. Or did you ever think of this? Some people are doing it that way. Certainly the disclosure laws were, a crazy time in the industry for people trying to figure it out. So we were getting a lot of different comments. But yeah, that's one of the benefits to working with a firm that represents many lenders in the industry. We can give you a broad sense of what's going on the field.
Plus, I'm sure it's easier for you to talk to another attorney than it is to talk to somebody else within an organization who might
Yeah,
not speak the same lingo.
right. Absolutely. And also, think about it. If you're the only attorney in your shop, who do you talk to? Who do you sit there and say, you know, what should I do? Have you ever seen this before? I mean, one of the things I love about my firm is it's so open. I can't tell you how many times people come into my office or I go into others and say, this is what's going on. These are the issues. Number one, am I missing anything? Do you think this will work? Do you have another idea? In-house counsel, unless you've got a team of people in-house, they don't have that benefit. And that's one of the nice things that we can supply them.
Unless they go online now or ChatGPT, but then they're just getting whatever that is and not anything real world related. Well, you know what I mean. People
Yeah,
probably criticize me for that comment, but we know
yeah.
where I was going.
Not there
Um,
yet. Not there yet.
no, uh, I don't think we'll ever fully be, but I want to talk about kind of the current state of the industry and kind of what we've been seeing because it's been up, it's been down. I mean, um, geopolitical things. I mean,
Yeah,
just I mean, I don't even know if that stuff's shaken out since the events that happened over the weekend. Quite
that's
frankly,
right.
but kind of what have you've been in the industry for 30 years? Next month makes 20 for me, but
Okay.
you know, compared to things you've seen in the past, Bob, like just what are your thoughts of the current state of equipment finance?
I think people are understandably, I think nervous is probably an overstatement. I would think mindful to concerned, because there's, unlike, other situations, there's, I think there's a higher risk of something unexpected happening. Um, so I think people are mindful of that. Um, it's not even close to the worst time I was in the industry. I mean, obviously, the industry's still doing well, but I mean, the credit crisis in 2008 is the one that jumps out at me, where, nobody was lending, brokers couldn't do deals. There were open forums, at conferences where the lenders were up there and they were being asked questions. Are you going to lend? And they said, well, we're really not sure. And that was a bad time because, everybody makes their money when they do a deal. And if you can't do a deal, nobody's making money. And that created a different kind of stress for everyone.
Or
But no, it's a cyclical industry. And, the markets go on different collateral values, go, hard and soft, depending upon what's going on. And I think we're going to be fine. I think we're going to weather it. There'll be ups and downs as there always is, but I don't see any long-term, nervousness.
and then I guess from a firm perspective, I'm sure when delinquencies are higher, there's more of that type of work. When they're lower, there's other work because people are looking to get in.
Right.
Is that kind of ebbs and flows?
Yeah. I mean, one of the nice things about doing both front end and back end work is it's a little bit of a hedge for us, because if, certainly in 2008 and 9, when there were no deals to be done, there were defaults all over the place. All right. And since then, with the exception of relatively recently, we've had very low defaults historically, but we've been doing a lot of front end work. It's one of the reasons I ended up doing, actually, it's not the reason I ended up doing front end work. About 25 years ago, I was complaining so much about one of my clients' paper. He goes, Bob, why don't you just redraft it? And that basically gave us an approach to doing things, from a litigator perspective. It's just a little different than a corporate perspective. And the clients seemed to like it. So we did a lot of that work. And it's good because it helped, allow me to stay busy during a time when there were really no, enforcement proceedings going on.
Sure, sure. A creative way to think about, like, okay, how do you, like you said, you meant the word hedge, right? Always have to be hedging. I mean, even the stuff that I'm doing now from a consulting perspective, I know what I'm good at, but doesn't mean it's always going to be there. So you got to make sure you can do a lot of
Correct.
things.
We all need our options, we all need our options. So,
Back to the legal side, if you don't mind. So you had the California disclosures, then you had the New York disclosures, and I know there was other states. I haven't really even heard anything about
yeah,
that in the last, I don't even know, 9, 12
yeah,
months.
it's been very quiet. Uh, the so obviously California started it, New York followed. California was addressing um, all transactions under $500,000. Um, and then New York made every transaction under $2.5 million, okay, covered by this. California excluded banks, but not the subsidiaries. New York excluded banks and their subsidiaries. But most notably, afterwards, there was a series of states that started um, coming up with, I wouldn't call it copycat legislation, but similar type legislation. And through the advocacy of ELFA, we were able to get the ELFA suite of exemptions applying to virtually all the states that have passed legislation since then. And not only does it exclude true leases, but it also excludes purchase money security interests. And those two categories cover about 95% of the industry. So, and now that the industry, to the extent that they're still doing business in New York and California, um, the forms are similar, not the same, but they're similar. It's something the industry now can navigate through, and that's why you don't hear as much about it.
I'm sure at first people are like, oh, that sucks. I remember just talking with people like, what do you say? I'm like, I don't know. I'm not an attorney. Like, what are you talking about? Go talk to these guys. And then
Right.
and I'm sure for as a firm, you don't mind it because it's some additional work, right? You get to do.
Yeah. And you know what? It's different. You know, everybody likes doing things that are different. I mean, I'm happy. I've been on the Uniform Law Commission committee with several people in the industry, um, and we're reviewing the model laws and advocating on behalf of the industry. And it's been great. It's been great. That's all through ELFA as their own position there. Andy Fishburne has been leading it. Marari has been very active as well as many others.
Bob, a quick question I have for you. I try to ask a lot of people who come on here that have been in the industry for a little while, at least, is, what advice would you have to someone just getting started in equipment finance? Even just say a young attorney just getting started in equipment finance.
Uh, I would spend the time listening. Listen to people who are around you. Identify people who you think are good for the industry and good people that are just there to be a resource for people. And not that they give their time away for free, but just their personality. For example, like Jacqueline Manning, great person in the industry. Um, when we first met, we had a conversation, and she said to me, Bob, there's several people out here that I could meet, but I think you and I will get along really well. And let's keep the relationship going. And we have. And we've had a great relationship since. And I think it's important to find people like that, that you trust, that can give you good advice, can connect you to different people. Um, and I would also recommend that you speak. I think it gives people an opportunity to not just see the fun side of you, but to see what you really know. And I think that's an important way to gain some street cred. Okay. And I think that's important for the industry and for everybody else to get an idea of what you're about.
Perfect. Great advice. Great advice. So the next question I have is I ask everyone who comes on the program to give me a little fun fact about themselves. So outside of,
Okay.
equipment finance and being an attorney, what makes Bob tick?
Well, it starts with food. I'm a food guy. I love different places to eat. I love restaurants. I love wherever we're at a conference, finding out what that area is known for and setting up a dinner and inviting friends to go along with clients. New Orleans obviously is great for that. And, the Texas barbecue places. And as you know, I'm a big fan of hot sauce. I love trying different hot sauces, and I love using them and sending them to people when we come up with stuff. But most importantly, I think um, what makes me and certainly my firm uh, different is really like what we do. And I think no matter what you do for a living, if you like what you do, I think you do a better job. And then you combine and overlay that you like the people you're working with. And I don't mean just internally in the firm, but clients and people in the industry. It's a recipe for happiness. And I think when you're happy with what you're doing, um, you'll do a better job. And I think it shows. And I think people would rather work with happy people than not.
100%. And that's the benefit of, you work for a firm, but you work for yourself too.
Mhm.
And, I kind of like the fact that now if a client's being a PIA,
Okay.
you can just be like, look, I can fire you just as much as you can fire me. This isn't going to work out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But no, it's great. It's great. We like what we do, and I think it shows in our work.
Bob, thank you for that fun fact. I guess my final question I have for you, sir, is why should someone want to do business with Bob Cohen and Moritt Hock and Hamroff?
Um, Thank you for having me, Jesse. And in answer to your question, it's the quality of our work. Nothing happens without it. You don't grow from 5 attorneys to 90 doing average work. We do very, very high quality work in this industry and elsewhere. And we don't let the brand we've established of our work product to suffer for any reason. If something's not right, we'll redo it until it's right. And clients appreciate that. And based upon that, we get the job done. And we're a lot more fun to work with than a lot of other lawyers. So it's all good. So that's the reason. And I look forward to
I can attest to that. I agree 100%.
it.
Well, excellent. Well, thanks again for your time. And I think, our paths will be crossing in early August for what, our 3rd annual EF Cares golf tournament.
Wouldn't miss it. Looking forward to it.
All right. Excellent. I think we're going to be up to 150 this year from a people perspective, which is fantastic.
That's great. You've done a great job in 3 years. Look what you're turning it into. It's great.
That people don't know that you're the person behind the scenes who actually helped us do this. So thank you.
Just got you set up. It's all you, my friend. It's all you.
Thank you.
It's all your connections.
All right, sir. Enjoy the rest of your day. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.